Some of you may wonder what the selection committee had in mind when it chose Brother Cyril Conroy, alias Brother Cy, for this honor tonight. You see, Cy never taught a class on this campus. Cy never dribbled a basketball, never headed a soccer ball, never wore the red and gray uniform. Yet this man was the most colorful man that ever appeared on this campus. You see, Cy was an orphan boy, right over here at St. Peter's Orphan. He was adopted by Mrs. Rose Conroy, and that gave this little kid a home. And he was so much honored by Mrs. Conroy that he tried to imitate her in everything he could do. And he started out by developing a homemade Irish brogue. It was a sort of a, I would say, poor Barry Fitzgerald imitation, and mixed in with this southern drawl, and then you had what Cy thought was an Irish brogue. If you can picture the Fighting Irish Notre Dame leprechaun, green derby and all, you have Cy. There's a picture right over here with Cy and his derby. When the war started, World War II, Cy enlisted, and he was scheduled for a time in Northern Ireland. And he thought, good, I'll try out my Irish brogue. And I'm sure that those people in Donegal who listened to him must have wondered, what country did that guy come from? Cy went on then to continental Europe and received the Purple Heart. When he returned to this campus, this became his new home. He was here night and day, even when he was supposed to be employed by the Conroy Plumbing Company. He spent all of his time here. In the early 1960s then, Mrs. Conroy died. And shortly afterwards, Cy decided to change his lifestyle. And he did it in true Cyril Conroy public relations style. He marched jauntily into the president's office, tipped his green derby to Mary Blades, the secretary, saying, "Top of the morning to you, Mary." Son came further into the president's office and said, "I am leaving tomorrow morning for Glencoe, Missouri, and I'm going to become a Christian brother." I happen to be the man at the other end of the desk. And I think I looked at Cy as sort of the way a coach might look at an athlete who wants to get into the game, but coach doesn't think he's quite ready. And Cy had given me his car keys and said, "You can have these. Keep the car. I'm not going to need it anymore." So I tossed the car keys back to him and said, "Cy, you'll never make it." I was totally wrong. Cy was right. And I believe from that moment on, that was the deciding time when Cy never believed anything a college president here said after. Cy started out, and this is where now he does the work that worthy of the honor that he's getting. He decided by parking the cars, yes, he did that very well. Cy was a motivator. He decided, why don't we let people park their cars out on that parking field, which is now the central parking lot, but at that time was a practice field. So he went over there, put up a microphone, and not only that, he got out on the street and bribed the policeman to direct the cars into our parking lot. That was Cy. And the parking is still done today by Philip Goodman for all the different games around here. But Cy started out really as a ticket taker. See, in those days, our gym was used, since it was one of the biggest in the city at that time, in the early days, other high schools played their games here, and the tournaments, city tournaments were here. And Cy took that as his first charge. He got a group of kids together, and really, he guarded every gym door with the same I suppose, skill as the Swiss Guard would take care of the Vatican doors. It was serious business for Cy. Cy loved people, and that was his audience. Later on, when Bob Stevenson came, see, Bob made a big mistake. He did not read the fine print of his contract. He didn't know that not only coaching basketball meant cleaning the locker room and sweeping the gym. Enter Cy Conroy. And we have a dual stimulus package. Yes, an odd couple of sorts, I must say. Nevertheless, they sparked ideas off of one another, and new vitality came to the athletic department. You know, many are the marks of Cy's work on this campus. He constructed the swimming pool and took care of it every day. And he got some charming lifeguards, Michelle over here being one. And we used to call them the, what do we call them now? I think it was Charlie's Angels, I think. He took care of the soccer field. He helped lay the soccer field with brothers and coaches and teachers. 2-foot pieces of sod, back-breaking work, 90-degree weather, but Cy took that upon himself. Later on this past year, when the soccer field was lowered 5 feet by the city, they discovered a flattened car. And someone said, oh, Cy probably buried his car here because that president didn't want it 25 years ago. But I must say, that part is fable. Because I went over to inspect the car. Yes, it had practically as many dents in it as Cy's car had, but it wasn't green, so it was not Cy's car at all. He was told also that we're going to change the cove. Now, the old timers here remember the cove, that spot where all the dances were held between the gym and the theater. They were going to, because women's athletes came in to vote here, we had to put new locker rooms, coaches' offices. So Cy was given charge of that project along with Stevenson and a few other people. And he was told one day, Cy, you've got to paint that place over there. And so he had to go beg people for paint and everything else. And someone said, well, Cy, you know, how many gallons are you talking about? He looked at him and said, well, are you talking about paint? Or are you talking about coffee? Or are you talking about Miller Lite? That was Cy. Cy was the heart and soul of this place for a long while. And I think we say it was one of the angels, he went where angels feared to tread, really. Because he got more things done here without going through the front office than any of the vice presidents could do on this campus. Cy, I think, just found a new home here. His first home was the Conroys. This was his second home right here. One interesting thing about it, on his memorial card, we have memorial cards for all the deceased brothers in the Midwest from 1848 to 2011. Cy, and despite the fact that many of those brothers who died were Irish missionaries to this part of the country, Cy's is the only card that's completely in green. Even in death, they took care of Cy that way. As I say, this Cy dedicated his entire life to this place. I think probably could finish with an Irish blessing, but that's not quite Cy. It's got to have a twist to it. A little Irish blessing curse, maybe. We'll put it that way. That'd be Cy. See, Cy had a tremendous love for this place, and he could not stand anyone who didn't love the place. He just couldn't at all. So that'll be the content of my blessing here. May those who love us, love us. Those who do not love us, may God turn their hearts. And if he cannot turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles so that we will always know them by their limping.